Before Gotham knows him as a legend, before criminals whisper about the shape on the rooftops, before the symbol becomes old enough to frighten men who have never seen his face, Bruce Wayne is a boy in an alley with 2 gunshots behind him. The Arkham story of Batman begins there, the same place so many Batman stories begin, but this version carries that night differently. It is less interested in a bright hero rising cleanly from tragedy, and more interested in a wounded man who keeps building armour around grief until the armour becomes a citywide myth. Arkham Batman is not born because Bruce forgets pain. He is born because Bruce teaches pain to move with discipline. The alley leaves him with more than sorrow. It leaves him with a question he spends his whole life trying to answer. What should happen to fear? As a child, fear takes everything from him. As a man, he chooses to give fear back to the people who feed on it. That choice sounds simple from a distance, but the Arkhamverse makes it heavy. Fear is never just a weapon in this story. It is a sickness, a mask, a memory, a toxin, a city-wide language, and sometimes a mirror. Bruce becomes Batman to master fear, but again and again the world tests whether he has mastered it or merely moved inside it so long that he can no longer tell where the mission ends and the wound begins. Years pass between the alley and the first great storm. Bruce trains his body, his mind, his patience and his anger. He learns to fight in ways Gotham street criminals cannot understand. He learns detection, stealth, pressure points, timing, disguise, and the art of entering a room as if the room is already lost. Wayne Manor remains above him like a grave with chandeliers, while the Batcave grows beneath it, full of tools meant to turn private grief into public intervention. Alfred Pennyworth stays beside him, not because he approves of every bruise and obsession, but because love sometimes means standing near the edge and trying to keep the person there from falling all the way in. When Batman first becomes active in Gotham, he is still raw. The later Batman is controlled, almost mythic, a figure who can stand in a room and make criminals feel that the outcome has already been decided. The young Batman is harsher, angrier, more willing to break bones, because he has not yet learned the difference between justice and punishment with enough precision. Gotham does not welcome him as a saviour. The police see him as a vigilante. Criminals see him as a rumour that needs killing. Even good men like James Gordon do not know whether the masked figure in the dark is a solution or another form of chaos wearing better discipline. That early uncertainty matters because Arkham Batman earns his place slowly. He is not accepted by Gotham simply because the costume is dramatic. He has to move through suspicion, violence, and his own arrogance. The first major night that defines him is Christmas Eve, the night of Batman Arkham Origins, when Gotham is covered in snow and a bounty turns the city into a hunting ground. The cold gives the story a strange stillness. Christmas lights hang over corruption. Families are inside, or trying to be, while the streets fill with killers. A holiday about peace becomes the night Gotham's worst people are paid to bring Batman's body in. The trap begins with Black Mask, or what seems to be Black Mask. Roman Sionis is a crime lord with wealth, cruelty and reach, but the night is already lying before Batman fully understands it. A jailbreak at Blackgate Penitentiary pulls him into the open. Commissioner Loeb is killed. Killer Croc becomes the first physical sign that the bounty is real. Batman defeats him and learns that 8 assassins have been drawn to Gotham by $50 million placed on Batman's head. That number matters because it turns one man's war on crime into a citywide market. Every killer with enough nerve can imagine the reward. Gotham becomes a place where Batman himself is the prize. The assassins show Batman different versions of death. Deathstroke brings discipline and military precision, a fighter who tests Batman's body in a way ordinary thugs cannot. Copperhead brings poison, hallucination, and the threat of losing the clarity he relies on. Firefly brings spectacle, flames, and public danger. Bane brings intellect and brute force together, which makes him far more dangerous than a simple strongman. Others move through the night as obstacles, ambushes, or warnings. The city becomes a proving ground, and young Batman still believes he can solve it by being harder than every person hunting him. The Penguin enters the story as a gatekeeper to the deeper rot. His ship, the Final Offer, becomes a floating den of Gotham criminality. Cold steel over black water, full of men who think money and cruelty make them untouchable. Batman fights through that world and faces Deathstroke, a duel that feels like one of the first times his physical legend is truly tested. The fight is more than a brawl. It is a conversation in armour, each strike asking whether Batman's training is enough when matched against someone equally disciplined. Batman wins, but the night does not become simpler. Victory in Gotham rarely means clarity. It usually means the next layer opens. The mystery around Black Mask begins to twist when Batman investigates an apparent murder and finds that the victim is not Sionis. The crime scene points towards someone else, someone theatrical, erratic, and more dangerous than the ordinary structure of organised crime. This is where the Joker enters the Arkham Batman's life in full. He has taken Black Mask's identity, seized parts of his empire, and turned the bounty into a stage. For Batman, Joker is not yet the old familiar nightmare. He is a new kind of criminal intelligence, a man who treats murder as performance and chaos as intimacy. Their first meetings are charged with confusion, because Joker understands something about Batman before Batman wants to understand it himself. To the Joker, Batman is more than an obstacle. He is a revelation. In Batman, Joker sees someone who can make his madness feel meaningful by opposing it with absolute seriousness. That is one of the most poisonous relationships in the Arkhamverse. Batman wants to stop Joker because Joker kills. Joker wants Batman to keep stopping him because the chase gives his life shape. From the beginning, their bond is not friendship, rivalry, or simple hatred. It is a mutual haunting, and the city suffers for it. The Gotham Royal Hotel becomes one of Joker's first great stages. The building is rigged with explosives, staff murdered, guests held hostage, assassins mocked, and the entire structure turned into a vertical carnival of cruelty. Batman climbs through it with increasing urgency, chasing a man who keeps transforming death into theatre. On the roof, Bane waits, and the night tightens. Alfred, frightened for Bruce's safety, alerts the police, creating a conflict that reveals how deeply Alfred cares and how little Bruce wants to be cared for. Batman is furious because he sees interference. Alfred sees the boy he raised trying to die for a mission that will never say thank you. When Joker falls from the roof and Batman saves him, the Arkham story changes. Joker cannot understand it. Batman has every reason to let him die. This is not a court, not a calm arrest, not a philosophical lecture. It is a falling murderer and a hand reaching out. Batman saves him because Batman's rule is already stronger than his anger. He does not kill. He will not become the thing Gotham expects Pain to create. Joker is fascinated by that refusal because it feels irrational, almost beautiful to him. Why save someone who will only hurt again? Batman may not yet have a clean answer, but his body answers first. He saves him. Joker's brief time with Harleen Quinzel at Blackgate plants another seed. He tells her the story of meeting Batman like a man describing fate. Harleen listens, and the future Harley Quinn begins to stir. The Arkhamverse often shows villainy as contagious through obsession. Joker does not simply kill people. He changes the emotional weather around them. Harleen is not forced at gunpoint into becoming Harley in that moment, but the fascination begins there, in a room where Joker explains Batman as if he has found the other half of a joke only he can hear. While Joker discovers his fixation, Bane discovers something even more dangerous: Batman's identity. He tracks Bruce Wayne back to the heart of the secret and attacks the Batcave. This is one of the most important early moments because it violates the separation Bruce depends on. The cave is meant to be sanctuary, command center, memory chamber and weapon forge. Bane turns it into a battlefield. Alfred nearly dies there, and Bruce is forced to revive him using the electrocutioner's gloves. For a moment, the mission touches the last living piece of family Bruce has. Alfred's near death makes the crusade feel less abstract. Batman's war is not safely contained in Gotham streets. It can come home. Alfred's response is not simply fear. He recognizes, after nearly dying and being revived, that Gotham may truly need Batman. That admission is not easy for him. He loves Bruce more than he loves the symbol. He would rather Bruce live. But he also sees the city clearly enough to understand that some nights require someone willing to stand where the law cannot yet stand. Their relationship deepens here. Alfred is not a servant polishing armour. He is witness, conscience, father, medic, and the only person allowed to speak to Batman as if Batman is still a man under the cowl. The final stretch of Arkham Origins forces Batman and Gordon into alliance. Blackgate erupts into riot, Joker takes control, and Batman enters the prison not as a criminal hunted by police, but as the only person capable of stopping something worse. Joker creates a choice around Bane's heartbeat and his own execution, trying to make Batman kill one man to save another, or refuse and watch death happen. Batman finds another way. He stops Bane's heart temporarily, satisfies the mechanism, then revives him. It is a clever solution, but more than cleverness. It is a statement of identity. Batman will fight death without becoming its servant. Gordon sees enough that night to change. He has distrusted Batman, and with good reason. A masked vigilante outside the law should frighten any honest officer. But Gordon also understands the difference between a man seeking power and a man bearing a burden. By the end of the night, Batman and Gordon are not yet the seamless partners they will become, but the foundation is laid. Arkham Batman does not build the Bat family all at once. He builds trust through nights where trust is the only thing separating the city from collapse. Arkham Origins Blackgate follows soon after, keeping Batman near the prison system that Gotham uses to contain its failures. Blackgate erupts again, divided among Joker, Penguin and Black Mask. Catwoman appears, slippery and self-interested, yet not without a deeper pull toward Batman's world. The prison becomes a smaller map of Gotham's criminal order, territories, hostages, power struggles, secrets under concrete. Batman moves through it as a figure still learning what it means to be more than a violent answer. The events also point toward larger forces watching from the edges, including the kind of government interest that will one day feed into Task Force X and the wider Arkhamverse beyond Gotham. Then comes Arkham Shadow, set months after Origins, and it deepens the young Batman in an essential way. Gotham is preparing for the 4th of July, a day built around independence and civic pride, while underneath the celebration a movement called the Rats gathers around the mysterious Rat King. The Rat King threatens public officials, including Commissioner Gordon and District Attorney Harvey Dent, and plans a day of wrath that will turn Gotham's anger into mass violence. This is a different kind of threat from the one Joker represents. Joker is chaos as personal performance. The Rat King is chaos as social infection. A movement built from people who believe the city has already abandoned them. Batman is still young enough to believe force can solve most things, But Arkham Shadow pushes him into a more complicated arena. He encounters police corruption, private security abuse, desperate prisoners, political pressure, and the fragile trust between himself, Gordon, and Dent. Gotham's systems are not merely weak. Some are actively cruel. Blackgate is run with the help of Tiger under Lyle Bolton, and the prison becomes a place where punishment has curdled into abuse. For Batman, this matters because he is a creature of punishment too. He must learn the difference between striking fear into criminals and letting fear become the whole language of justice. To uncover the Rat King, Bruce becomes Matches Malone and infiltrates Blackgate from the inside. That choice is more than disguise. It forces Batman to live among the people Gotham locks away. He meets inmates, hears their fears, witnesses their treatment, and understands that the line between criminal and victim is sometimes messier than his younger anger prefers. He still believes in accountability. He still fights. But the prison shows him that if he is careless, he can become another masked authority figure deciding who deserves pain. The story begins shifting him from vengeance toward hope. Harleen Quinzel and Jonathan Crane appear in this era before their later transformations fully define them. That is one of Arkham Shadow's most haunting qualities. It shows people before they become legends of madness. Crane is already experimenting with fear and hallucinogens, treating terror as a tool to unlock or break the mind. Harleen sees enough to become suspicious, yet she is still on the path toward Joker's gravity. Harvey Dent, Bruce's childhood friend, stands in the public world as District Attorney, a man trying to save Gotham through law and legitimacy. Around Bruce, future villains and allies are still human enough to hurt in advance. The tragedy of Harvey Dent sharpens when Crane's fear toxin disfigures him during a hearing, and Harvey believes Matches Malone has attacked him. Physical injury becomes psychological fracture. Later, Batman discovers that the Rat King is tied to Dent himself, an alternate personality born from strain, rage, and Gotham's cruelty. This makes the conflict intimate. Batman is not merely stopping an enemy. Bruce is watching a friend split under the pressure of the same city they both wanted to save. When Dent holds Joe Chill, the man who killed Bruce's parents, Batman faces one of the oldest wounds in his life inside one of his newest crises. The Joe Chill moment is essential. Bruce could let revenge complete itself through someone else's hand. Harvey wants to execute the man who made Batman possible. The city might even understand the emotion, if not the act. Instead, Bruce unmasks himself to Dent and stops the killing. He reveals the secret to save a friend and refuses to let his parents' murder become an excuse for another murder. Joe Chill apologizes and leaves, carrying a strange, inadequate remorse. Bruce receives no clean closure from seeing him. That is the point. Closure is rarely clean in Gotham. The choice not to kill must be made without the comfort of feeling healed. Afterward, Dent is treated by Leslie Tompkins, though another personality makes clear that Two-Face has begun. Matches Malone is believed to be the Rat King, and Batman's secret remains mostly safe, but the cost is enormous. Harvey is broken. Gotham has seen another mask form. Yet the ending also gives Bruce a new beginning with Dick Grayson, a former rat cultist connected to Shrike. Bruce adopts him as his ward, assuring him that everyone can be saved. That sentence marks a turning point. The young Batman who began as vengeance is learning to make room for rescue. Dick's arrival is the first true breath of the Bat family. Dick Grayson changes Batman because he forces Bruce to become responsible for something other than pain. Taking in Dick is not simply charity, it is recognition. Bruce sees a boy shaped by loss and refuses to let him become another Bruce Wayne alone in the dark. Dick eventually becomes Robin, and Robin changes the mission's emotional temperature. The war on crime is still dangerous, but it is no longer only one man's private crusade. There is brightness in Dick, movement, humour, anger and youth. Batman gains a partner, and in doing so he learns that the symbol can inspire without only terrifying. Barbara Gordon grows into her own place in the story too. She is curious, brilliant, stubborn, and drawn toward Batman's world even when her father would rather protect her from it. In the Arkham timeline, Barbara becomes Batgirl and later Oracle, one of Batman's most important allies. Her role matters because it moves the mission beyond fists and fear. Information becomes a kind of rescue. Surveillance, communication, analysis and coordination become as vital as combat. Batman may be the figure on the rooftop, but Oracle becomes the voice in the system, the mind helping him see Gotham's moving parts. Jason Todd enters later as the second Robin, and his story becomes one of Batman's deepest failures. Where Dick brings light, Jason brings a harder edge, a boy with anger closer to Bruce's own. Batman tries to guide him, but the mission has already become bigger, darker, and more dangerous. Joker captures Jason, tortures him in Arkham, and breaks him over a long period while Batman believes him dead. This wound will not fully open until Arkham Knight, but it begins long before. Batman's family grows, and with growth comes the possibility of loss multiplied. A solitary Batman can be hurt. A Batman with sons can be destroyed in more specific ways. Tim Drake eventually becomes Robin as well, entering a mission already haunted by Jason's absence. Tim is intelligent, brave and devoted, but Batman's protectiveness grows harsher because he has already failed one Robin. This is one of the central tensions of Arkham Batman's later years. He gathers allies because the mission needs them, and because part of him wants family again. Then he pushes those allies away because he fears the mission will consume them. He wants help, but treats help like another hostage to fate. The Arkham series returns to this pattern again and again. Batman's love often expresses itself as control, and control can wound the people he is trying to protect. By the time Arkham Asylum begins, Batman is no longer the raw vigilante of Christmas Eve. He is established, feared, and intimately familiar with Gotham's rogues. Arkham Asylum itself stands like a gothic monument to everything Gotham cannot heal. It is a hospital, prison, museum of madness, and family curse all at once. Batman delivers Joker there after Joker attacks Gotham City Hall, but he suspects something is wrong. Joker allowed himself to be captured too easily. Batman follows him inside, and the doors close on one of the most important nights of his life. The asylum is Joker's chosen theatre, but unlike the Gotham Royal Hotel years earlier, this stage is filled with old enemies, locked wards, medical records, and the long echo of institutional failure. Harley Quinn helps seize control. A corrupt guard, Frank Bowles, betrays his post. Commissioner Gordon is kidnapped. Joker threatens Gotham with hidden bombs if anyone tries to enter, isolating Batman on the island. This is exactly the kind of trap Joker loves. Batman alone, surrounded by madness, forced to move through a maze where every rescue pulls him deeper into the joke. Arkham Asylum tests Batman's mind as much as his body. The corridors are crowded with men who fear him, hate him, worship Joker, or simply want out. Doctors and guards become hostages. The island's old architecture presses down like memory. Batman moves through medical facilities, cell blocks, sewers, gardens and hidden caves, each space revealing that Arkham is less a place of healing than a place Gotham uses to store what frightens it. Batman depends on Arkham to contain his enemies, yet the night proves how fragile that containment is. A locked door is no justice. A padded cell is no understanding. The people inside have not been resolved. They have been stacked. Scarecrow's fear toxin brings the story back to Bruce's oldest wound. Crane does not need to defeat Batman physically when he can force the alley to reopen. Under the toxin, the world stretches into nightmare. Thomas and Martha Wayne return as accusation and grief. The young boy in the alley feels close again. Scarecrow grows huge, the god of panic, asking whether Batman's discipline is enough when the mind itself becomes hostile. Each hallucination is a reminder that Batman's strength is not the absence of fear. It is the repeated act of moving through fear without letting it choose for him. Harley Quinn, already transformed by Joker's influence, becomes one of the clearest signs that Joker's damage spreads outward. She is playful, violent, devoted, and wounded in ways the story does not soften. She guards doors, controls systems, mocks Batman, and turns the asylum into Joker's carnival. For Batman, facing Harley is different from facing a hired killer. She is a victim of Joker's orbit and an active threat at the same time. Arkham rarely lets moral categories stay comfortable. Batman must stop her without pretending her tragedy absolves the harm she causes. Bane's presence deepens the Titan story. Dr. Penelope Young has been developing Titan, a more powerful version of the Venom formula tied to Bane's strength. Joker secretly funded the research, intending to create an army of monstrous, superhuman followers. This is very Joker and very Arkham, medical science twisted into spectacle, institutional ambition turned into weaponry, a treatment facility becoming a factory for mutation. Bane, already a man whose body has been shaped by chemical power, becomes both warning and instrument. Batman defeats him, but Titan remains the true disease moving through the night. The secret Batcave beneath Arkham Island reveals how prepared Batman has become over the years. He has built fallback points inside the enemy's world, hidden systems beneath old stone, and planned for disasters no sane person would expect. This preparation is impressive, but also lonely. Batman has made a life out of imagining what can go wrong. The cave under Arkham is a perfect image, Bruce's control hidden beneath Gotham's madness, a little island of order inside a place built from failure. Yet even that order can be breached. Ivy's plants will later tear into it, reminding him that no preparation is absolute. Poison Ivy's role turns Titan from chemical threat into ecological nightmare. Joker injects her with Titan, and the island begins to change. Plants twist through stone. The botanical gardens become a living hazard. Ivy's anger is not like Joker's. She is tied to the natural world, and sees humanity as rot. Titan magnifies her power, turning the asylum into a place where the architecture itself feels overgrown by consequence. Batman must enter Killer Croc's lair for spores needed to create an antidote, moving through one of the most primal spaces in the story. Dark water, heavy breathing, fragile platforms, and a predator somewhere beneath. Killer Croc's lair strips Batman down to patience. There is no crowd to impress, no rooftop duel, no grand speech. There is only quiet movement over black water, and the knowledge that one mistake brings teeth from below. Arkham Batman is often defined by strength, but this section shows another strength: stillness. He listens, waits, moves lightly, and gathers what he needs. The cave under the asylum becomes almost mythic, as if Batman has descended into Gotham's oldest animal fear. He emerges with the means to cure the poison, but the island continues to resist being saved. At the end of Arkham Asylum, Joker tries to force Batman into transformation. He shoots Batman with a Titan dart meant for Gordon, hoping to turn the Dark Knight into a monster for the cameras. Joker wants spectacle above all else. He wants Batman swollen, raging, made ugly in public, proving that beneath the cape and code there is only another beast. Batman resists. He uses the antidote on himself instead of embracing the power. Joker overdoses on Titan and becomes the grotesque monster he wanted Batman to be. The contrast is exact. Joker believes power is funniest when it destroys shape. Batman survives by refusing that destruction. The final fight on the asylum roof is absurd and tragic at once. Joker, mutated and enormous, performs for news helicopters as if the whole city has been forced into his punchline. Batman fights henchmen, waits for openings, and brings Joker down without becoming him. When it ends, the police retake the asylum, Titan victims begin reverting, and Joker is carried away. But the ending offers no real peace. Batman hears of a crime led by Two-Face and leaves immediately. That is the rhythm of his life. One night ends only because another need begins. The island is saved, but Gotham remains hungry. The deeper consequence of Arkham Asylum is Titan. Joker's overdose infects him with a fatal disease, and the leftover formula becomes the poison that drives the next great chapter. Arkham City is born in the space between public fear and political ambition. Quincy Sharp, manipulated by Hugo Strange and elevated by the false prestige of having once overseen Arkham, becomes mayor. Arkham Asylum and Blackgate are effectively replaced by a walled prison district carved from Gotham itself. The city chooses not to solve crime, but to cage it in a neighbourhood, wall it off, and call the wall order. Arkham City is one of Gotham's most revealing mistakes. It turns poverty, criminality, political fear, and institutional brutality into urban planning. Whole streets become prison corridors, criminal gangs claim districts, Tiger soldiers enforce Hugo Strange's will. Innocent people can be swallowed by the system if the politics demand it. Bruce Wayne opposes the project publicly, and that opposition gets him arrested at his own press conference. The symbol of respectable Gotham is dragged into the prison city in a suit, beaten, and thrown among the very people the city wants hidden. Hugo Strange knows his secret, and he makes that knowledge part of the threat. Bruce becoming Batman inside Arkham City is almost ritualistic. Alfred sends his equipment by airdrop, and Bruce transforms from public prisoner back into the city's shadow. He first saves Catwoman from Two-Face, a rescue that places him immediately between personal history, criminal politics, and the strange trust he has with Selina Kyle. Catwoman is not a side note in this story. She represents one of the few people who understands Batman's world without accepting his moral structure completely. She is selfish, brave, affectionate when she least wants to be, and honest about survival in ways Batman often refuses to be. Joker pulls Batman toward the Sionis steel mill, where the Titan sickness reveals itself. Joker is dying because of his own ambition from the asylum. His body is failing, and in classic Joker fashion, he refuses to suffer alone. He captures Batman and infects him through a blood transfusion, making Batman share the disease. Worse, Joker has sent infected blood into Gotham hospitals, turning his impending death into a civic emergency. Even dying, Joker makes his body a weapon. He cannot simply seek a cure. He must turn the cure into a game where Batman is forced to save the man poisoning him. The search for a cure brings Batman into conflict with Mr. Freeze, Penguin, Ra's al Ghul, and Talia. Each step opens a different part of Gotham's underworld. Penguin's museum is a collection of trophies, cruelty, and old grudges, where human beings and monsters are displayed as property. Solomon Grundy rises beneath it like a nursery rhyme turned corpse, Another reminder that Gotham's past is never dead in an ordinary way. Misty, Freeze is desperate for Nora, driven by love sharpened into obsession. Batman needs Freeze's mind, but Freeze needs leverage, and in Gotham even cooperation often arrives through combat first. Ra's al Ghul and the League of Assassins bring another philosophy of justice into the story. Ra's sees Gotham as diseased and believes in cleansing through destruction. He and Batman share discipline, secrecy, and a grand sense of mission, but they split at the essential point. Batman refuses murder as method. Talia complicates this because she is tied to Bruce's heart, to a life where he might have stood beside a different kind of order. The Lazarus Pit below Arkham City offers resurrection, temptation, and ancient power. Batman takes what he needs from Ra's blood to finish the cure. But the story keeps asking how far a man can go in pursuit of saving life before he begins borrowing from death. While Batman chases the cure, Hugo Strange prepares Protocol 10. Strange is one of the most dangerous villains in the Arkhamverse, because he tries to defeat Batman by understanding him. He knows Bruce Wayne is Batman, and he treats that knowledge as proof of superiority. Strange sees himself as the man who can replace or surpass Batman through institutional control. He does not wear a clown smile or a monster's mask. He wears authority, psychology, and military force. Protocol 10 reveals his true plan: mass execution inside Arkham City, wiping out the imprisoned population under the claim of saving Gotham from crime. Protocol 10 is Gotham's fear made official. Joker turns fear into comedy, Scarecrow turns fear into toxin. Strange turns fear into policy. That makes him chilling. Tiger helicopters rain missiles onto Arkham City's people, while Strange speaks from Wonder Tower, convinced he is performing necessary surgery. Batman is forced to choose between chasing the personal cure and stopping the political massacre. Alfred, over comms, helps him see the truth. Saving Talia and stopping Joker matters, but stopping Protocol 10 must come first. Batman is always pulled between the intimate and the civic. Arkham City makes that conflict brutal. Batman climbs Wonder Tower and confronts Strange, only to learn that Ra's al Ghul has been the deeper architect behind the plan. Strange fails, Ra's kills him, and the tower begins to self-destruct. Ra's then chooses death over capture, impaling himself in a fall that turns ancient conviction into another body on Gotham's long list. Batman survives, but victory feels hollow because Arkham City was not a single madman's plan. It was a coalition of fear, mayoral ambition, private security, psychological obsession, and League ideology. Gotham almost let a prison district become an extermination chamber because the right language made cruelty sound safe. Then, the story returns to Joker, because Arkham Batman can never fully escape him. At the Monarch Theatre, the same name tied to Bruce's childhood wound becomes the stage for another ending. Talia appears to kill Joker, only for the trick to reveal Clayface as the healthy double. The real Joker remains sick, desperate, and still theatrical. Talia dies. Clayface falls into the Lazarus Pit chamber beneath the theatre. Batman fights through illusion, shape-shifting, and grief, carrying the cure that could save both himself and Joker. Even now, after everything, Batman considers saving him. The moment Joker dies is the emotional centre of Arkham City. Joker attacks Batman, causing the vial to break. The cure spills away. Batman tells him, quietly, that he would have saved him. That line matters, because it is not a boast. It is not sentimental. It is the burden of Batman's rule stated at the end of the most toxic relationship in his life. Joker laughs, then dies. The laughter ends with a body in Batman's arms. For years, Joker wanted to prove that Batman was one bad day away from becoming like him. Batman answers by grieving the death of a monster he still refused to murder. Batman carrying Joker's body out of the theatre is one of the defining images of the entire Arkham saga. He walks through the silent crowd with the man who hurt him more than almost anyone. The man who killed, poisoned, mocked, and obsessed over him. He places Joker on the hood of Gordon's car and leaves without explanation. The silence is heavier than dialogue. Batman has survived the night, stopped Protocol 10, lost Talia, watched Joker die, and been infected by the knowledge that one part of his world has ended. Gotham is quieter for one breath, but Batman is not freer. Joker's death becomes another prison, this time inside Bruce's mind. Arkham City also marks a shift in the Bat family's strain. Batman has allies, but he keeps moving as if solitude is proof of seriousness. Robin wants to help. Oracle watches and guides. Catwoman makes her own choices. Sometimes selfish, sometimes generous. Alfred remains the voice trying to keep Bruce alive. Yet Bruce keeps narrowing the circle when the danger feels personal. This habit will become disastrous later. He believes that carrying pain alone protects others from it. The Arkham story gradually proves the opposite. Pain carried alone does not vanish. It changes shape, and sometimes it takes the face of a dead clown. Between Arkham City and Arkham Knight sits Arkham Vera, a short but important psychological nightmare. Bruce wakes from memories of his parents' murder and enters a case involving the apparent deaths of Nightwing and Robin. The investigation becomes increasingly impossible. Nightwing is found brutally killed. Robin is taken by Killer Croc. The evidence points towards something unbearable. Batman himself, under Joker's influence from infected blood, may have murdered the people he loves. The scenario collapses into hallucination, guilt and horror, ending with Batman seeing Joker in his own reflection. Arkham Vertra matters because it shows what Joker's death has done to Bruce. Joker is gone from the world, but not from Batman's fear. The infected blood from Arkham City has become more than a medical problem. It is a symbolic invasion. Batman's deepest terror is not dying. It is becoming the thing he fights and hurting the family he tried to protect. Nightwing and Robin's imagined deaths are the nightmare version of his whole mission, that every child he took into the dark will eventually be destroyed by him, either through failure, control, or corruption. The mirror with Joker's face is not simply a scare, it is the question Arkham Knight will force him to answer. Gotham after Joker's death changes in strange ways. A city dominated by one laughing wound now opens room for other fears to rise. Criminals shift, power vacuums form, Harley mourns and rages. Penguin, Two-Face, Riddler, Scarecrow, and others continue their own obsessions. Batman is still needed, perhaps more than ever, yet something is different. The enemy who defined so many nights is gone, and Batman has to face what remains of himself when the joke no longer speaks aloud. Unfortunately, silence is exactly where Joker's ghost becomes strongest. The final major night begins on Halloween in Arkham Knight. Scarecrow returns with a threat large enough to empty Gotham. He announces a new fear toxin and forces an evacuation, leaving the city almost entirely to criminals, militia, police, and Batman. Halloween suits this ending perfectly. Gotham becomes a city of masks after the ordinary people leave. The streets are wet, neon, and abandoned. The skyline looks like a memory of itself. Batman moves through a city stripped of civilian life, as if Gotham has become the inside of his own mind. Danger everywhere, loved ones hidden, fear in the air, and Joker waiting where no one else can see him. Scarecrow's plan is not merely to kill. He wants to unmake the symbol. He understands that Batman is held together by fear turned outward, so he builds a Knight meant to reverse that pressure. If Gotham can be made afraid enough, if Batman can be exposed enough, if the people closest to him can be threatened enough, the myth may crack. Scarecrow is patient in a way Joker rarely was. Joker wanted intimacy and chaos. Scarecrow wants revelation. He wants the mask removed, the mind broken, and the city forced to watch its protector become human, frightened and insufficient. Batman first rescues Poison Ivy, who has refused to join Scarecrow's alliance of villains. Ivy's role in the night is unusual because she begins as a prisoner and becomes one of Gotham's unlikely saviours. She does not love humanity, she does not soften into a simple ally. But Scarecrow's toxin threatens life at a scale that even she cannot ignore. Her connection to the natural world becomes essential later, when Gotham's poisoned air needs something older and greener than Batman's machines. Ivy's reluctant help gives the Night one of its strangest forms of grace. Ace Chemicals becomes the first major pressure point. Oracle identifies it as the source of Scarecrow's toxin, and Batman enters a facility rigged to become a massive bomb. Inside, he finds the scale of Scarecrow's ambition and the presence of a new military enemy, the Arkham Knight. The Knight commands a disciplined militia, men with drones, tanks, training and knowledge of Batman's methods. This is not a gang wearing clown paint or a mob crew defending territory. It is a force built specifically to counter Batman. The city has produced enemies before. This enemy feels designed. The Batmobile changes the texture of the night. In earlier stories, Batman moves through shadows, rooftops, vents and rooms. In Arkham Knight, the car becomes an extension of his will, a heavy armoured answer to a militarised Gotham. It lets him cross the emptied city, tear through barricades, pursue convoys and fight drone tanks. The Batmobile is power, speed and control, but it also reflects how far the conflict has escalated. Gotham's streets no longer need only a detective in the dark. They have become a battlefield, and Batman has answered battlefield logic with a war machine. At Ace Chemicals, Batman exposes himself to Scarecrow's toxin to reduce the blast and save the eastern seaboard from disaster. That act reveals the old contradiction: he will risk himself without hesitation, but he will not easily trust others with risk. The toxin intensifies Joker's presence in his mind, and suddenly the dead clown is there, speaking, laughing, leaning over his shoulder as if death were a technicality. Joker becomes a hallucination born from infected blood, fear toxin, guilt and memory. He is no longer a body in Gotham. He is a voice inside Batman's head, and that may be worse. The Joker hallucination works because it knows Bruce intimately. It mocks his restraint, his allies, his failures, his need for control, his grief over Jason, his fear of becoming a monster. Joker inside the mind is the purest version of their relationship. There are no walls, no cells, no chases, no distance. Joker becomes the intrusive thought Batman has spent years defeating in physical form. Every time Bruce sees him, the story asks whether the code is strong enough when no one else can see the enemy. Fighting Joker now means fighting interpretation, temptation and shame. Oracle's kidnapping becomes the emotional engine of the Middle Night. Barbara Gordon has been one of Batman's most trusted allies, and her capture tears open his worst fear, that those who help him pay the price for his mission. When he tells Jim Gordon that Barbara has been working with him, Gordon feels betrayed. That betrayal is understandable. Batman has relied on Barbara's brilliance while keeping her father partly outside the truth. Gordon is not simply angry that his daughter is in danger. He is angry that Batman made a world where she could be in danger without Gordon fully knowing the shape of it. Batman's relationship with allies strains under that secrecy. Robin wants to help. Nightwing moves through other parts of the city. Oracle guides him until she is taken. Alfred stays in his ear from the cave. Lucius provides technology. Gordon tries to act as father and commissioner at once. Yet Batman keeps trying to carry the central burden alone. He hides the Joker infection. He withholds pieces of truth. He locks Tim Drake in a cell later under the claim of protection. These choices come from love, but love filtered through fear becomes control. Arkham Knight is the night that forces Batman to confront the damage done by protective secrecy. The Cloudburst device raises Scarecrow's threat from targeted fear to environmental apocalypse. Built through Simon Stagg's research and seized by the Arkham Knight, the Cloudburst can disperse toxin across the city at massive scale. When it activates, Gotham becomes a nightmare sea. Streets fill with fear gas. The city looks submerged in psychological poison. Batman drives into it because there is no one else who can. The sequence feels like entering Scarecrow's philosophy made visible, a whole city breathing panic, every road and tower turned into an extension of the mind's collapse. Ivy's sacrifice is one of the most important moral beats in Arkham Knight. She empowers an ancient tree to neutralize Scarecrow's toxin, pushing herself beyond what she can survive. Gotham is saved by the person who often hates Gotham's people most. That does not make her suddenly innocent or gentle. It makes her complicated, and the Arkhamverse is strongest when villains remain complicated. Ivy dies saving a city she would never have claimed to love in a simple human way. Batman watches another life spend itself to stop fear. The Knight collects sacrifices, and not all of them wear the bat. Harley Quinn's assault on Panessa Studios brings Joker's legacy into a more grotesque form. Batman has been hiding people infected with Joker's blood, individuals physically and mentally transforming under the influence of the same sickness inside him. Panessa becomes a secret hospital, a prison, and a confession he has not yet made. Harley tries to free them because she sees in them a continuation of the man she loved. Batman and Robin capture her, but the patients become a mirror of Bruce's fear. What if Joker is not gone because Joker can be reproduced? What if the infection is medical and symbolic at once? The idea of Joker surviving in every mind he changed. Robin discovers enough to realise Batman is infected, and Tim tries to stop him from continuing. Batman's response is to imprison Robin for his own safety. It is one of Bruce's most painful decisions because it shows the limit of his trust. Tim is not a child in need of being hidden from every hard truth. He is Robin, partner, detective, and adult enough to make choices. Batman locks him away because fear has convinced him that love means removing agency. Joker's voice thrives on that. The more Batman isolates himself, the more Joker can claim him. The Arkham Knight himself haunts the night with knowledge that feels personal long before the reveal. He knows Batman's tactics, weaknesses, movements, and emotional pressure points. He speaks with hatred too specific to be a stranger's. His militia adapts to Batman's methods, forcing Bruce to confront the possibility that the mission can be studied, countered, and weaponized against him. The Knight is more than a soldier. He is an accusation wearing armour. Every encounter asks what Batman has forgotten, who he has failed, and what kind of wound would know him this well. When the Arkham Knight reveals himself as Jason Todd, the story's deepest personal wound opens. Jason was the second Robin, captured by Joker, tortured, broken, and made to believe Batman abandoned him. Batman believed Jason dead, but belief does not feel like enough to the man who suffered. Jason's hatred is built from pain Batman did not prevent, an absence Batman cannot explain away. He blames Bruce for failing him, replacing him, and letting Joker define the end of his life. The reveal turns the Knight's military threat into family tragedy. The enemy commander is a son returning as a weapon. Jason's pain is not cleanly rational, but it is emotionally devastating. Joker tortured him physically and psychologically, sending Batman false evidence of his death. Bruce grieved, but grief did not rescue Jason. A memorial in the cave did not rescue Jason. A new Robin did not rescue Jason. From Jason's perspective, the symbol failed at its most intimate promise. Batman saves strangers every night. He could not save the boy wearing his colours. Arkham Knight turns that failure into an army, a mask, and a vendetta. Jason becomes proof that Batman's mission can create ghosts while the people are still alive. Batman refuses to give up on Jason. This is one of the most important choices in the final night. He could treat the Arkham Knight as simply another enemy commander. He could respond to betrayal with force alone. Instead, when the truth appears, he reaches toward the boy under the armour. He tells Jason he can help him. Jason cannot accept it yet, and he escapes. But the offer matters. Earlier, Bruce told Dick Grayson that everyone can be saved. Jason is the hardest test of that belief, because saving him means facing the consequences of failing him first. Meanwhile, Scarecrow keeps tightening the noose around Batman's public and private identities. Gordon is taken. Robin is taken. Oracle's apparent suicide is revealed as fear toxin hallucination, but the damage of believing it remains. Batman is forced again and again to watch the people he loves become leverage. Scarecrow understands that Batman's body is hard to break, so he attacks the network of care around him. A solitary Batman might endure pain forever. A Batman with family can be broken through their suffering. This is why the Bat family is both his strength and his vulnerability. The assault on the GCPD brings Gotham's remaining lawful resistance into focus. The police station becomes a fortress, surrounded by militia, criminals, fear, and exhaustion. Gordon's officers are not all noble, not all clean, but they are human beings trying to hold a line in a city emptied by terror. Batman and Oracle work together to neutralize threats and keep the station standing. The GCPD has come a long way from Gordon distrusting the young vigilante in Origins. The alliance is imperfect, bruised and strained by secrets, but real. Gotham survives because the symbol and the honest pieces of the law learn to stand together. At the end, Batman surrenders to Scarecrow to save Gordon and Robin. This surrender is not defeat in the ordinary sense. It is the moment Bruce accepts that force cannot solve the hostage situation without sacrificing the people he loves. Scarecrow takes him back to the ruins of Arkham Asylum, the place where Joker once turned confinement into theatre. Now, Scarecrow turns revelation into execution. He unmasks Batman as Bruce Wayne before the world. The secret that protected Alfred, allies and the Wayne name is gone. Gotham sees the face beneath the myth. The unmasking is devastating because Batman's identity has always been a structure of protection. Bruce Wayne is the mask that lets Batman operate. Batman is the mask that gives Bruce's grief purpose. Scarecrow tears the two together in public, trying to destroy both. The world now knows that its billionaire orphan, philanthropist and strange recluse was the figure haunting rooftops for years. Criminals will target everyone connected to him. Institutions will unravel. The myth cannot return to its old form. Scarecrow believes this is victory because he thinks exposure is the same as truth. But truth, in Batman's story, is never that simple. Scarecrow injects Batman with fear toxin again and again, trying to break him while the world watches. Inside Bruce's mind, Joker seizes the chance to take full control. The internal battle becomes the final duel between them. Joker shows Bruce images of failure, death, infection, and surrender. He tries to convince him that Joker is the unforgettable one, the permanent force, the laughing truth under Batman's discipline. Then the story turns. Batman sees Joker's real fear being forgotten. For all Joker's theatrical death worship, what terrifies him is insignificance. Batman locks him away in the deepest part of the mind, not by killing him, but by refusing to remember him as the centre. That victory is quiet and enormous. Joker has dominated Batman's life for years, then haunted him after death. In the asylum, in the city, in the blood, in hallucination, in guilt, he kept returning. Batman defeats him by denying him the final intimacy he wants. He does not become Joker. He does not let Joker define him. He does not even grant him the honour of eternal obsession. He closes the door. For Arkham Batman, this may be as important as any physical battle. The greatest enemy is not beaten with a punch. He is made irrelevant inside the one mind he most wanted to own. Jason returns at the decisive moment, saving Batman from Scarecrow. This does not repair everything. Jason's trauma is too deep for one rescue to heal. But the act matters because it shows that the boy under the armour is not gone. He can still choose against the people who used his pain. He can still save the man he hates. Batman then turns Scarecrow's own fear toxin against him, leaving Crane broken by the terror he inflicted on others. The city is saved, the militia is defeated, the villains are contained, and yet Bruce's public life is finished. The Nightfall Protocol becomes Batman's final answer to exposure. He returns to Wayne Manor, greeted by Alfred, while reporters crowd outside. Then the manor explodes. To the world, Bruce Wayne and Alfred Pennyworth die. The image is shocking because it destroys the home built over the original wound. Wayne Manor, the place where the orphaned boy grew up, where the cave beneath held the mission, becomes part of the sacrifice. Batman cannot protect his loved ones as Bruce Wayne anymore, so Bruce Wayne must disappear. The question of whether Bruce and Alfred literally die is answered by the later world and by the final image of Arkham Knight. Sometime after, Gordon is mayor, and Robin and Oracle are preparing to marry. In another alley, criminals threaten a family and are confronted by a nightmarish bat-like figure. The implication is that Batman survives in a new form, using fear toxin, or a fear-based symbol, to make himself something more mythic and less traceable. Bruce Wayne is gone from the public story. Batman continues as Nightmare, more ghost than man, a protector no longer tied to a public face. Nightfall is not a happy ending, but it is a fitting one for Arkham Batman. He saves Gotham and loses the ordinary world. He defeats Joker inside himself and loses Bruce Wayne outside himself. He saves his allies by removing the target his identity placed on them. He learns the cost of secrecy and still must vanish into a deeper secrecy. The Arkham saga rarely allows clean peace. It gives Bruce a victory shaped like exile, yet there is hope in the survival of his family. Barbara and Tim can marry. Gordon can lead openly. Jason can begin walking another path. Dick remains out there. The mission no longer belongs to Bruce alone. The emotional arc from Origins to Knight is a movement from vengeance towards symbol, and from symbol towards sacrifice. The young Batman of Christmas Eve believes he can force Gotham into order through will. The Batman of Arkham Shadow learns that hope matters, and that even the guilty are not simple. The Batman of Asylum proves his code under Joker's pressure. The Batman of City carries his enemy's body and survives a night where political fear nearly becomes mass murder. The Batman of Night faces his failed son, his dead enemy inside his head, and the collapse of his identity. At every step, he becomes more than the boy in the alley, but he never fully stops carrying him. Still, the Arkham Batman story does not quite end with Nightfall, because the Arkham-verse continues into a wider and stranger world. Years pass. Batman, no longer Bruce Wayne in public, somehow remains alive and becomes connected to the Justice League. The existence of the League changes the scale of the universe. Gotham's protector is no longer only the city's shadow. He stands beside Superman, Wonder Woman, the Flash, Green Lantern, and others, stepping into a world of aliens, gods, and global threats. That development can feel surprising after the tight gothic isolation of Gotham. But it also shows Batman's symbol surviving beyond the city that made it. This later, Batman has already lost the safety of a secret identity as the world knew it. He has endured Joker, Scarecrow, Jason, public unmasking, and the death of Bruce Wayne as a public role. Joining the Justice League suggests that he found a way to keep fighting without returning to the old pattern exactly. Perhaps the League gave him a broader mission. Perhaps it forced him to trust equals in a way he resisted with his own family. Perhaps, after Nightfall, he could only continue by becoming part of something larger than Gotham's endless cycle. Whatever the path, the Batman who enters the League is a survivor of mythic exhaustion. Before following that later road, it helps to let the smaller Gotham stories settle around him, because the Arkham Batman is defined by more than the central knights. Gotham is full of recurring obsessions, and each villain reveals a different pressure point in Bruce's mission. Riddler turns intellect into domination, filling the city with trophies, puzzles, traps, and humiliations meant to prove that Batman's mind can be beaten. Penguin turns crime into collection and status. Two-Face turns justice into chance. Mr. Freeze turns love into frozen desperation. Hush turns identity into violation. Azrael turns prophecy into manipulation. Each case asks Batman what kind of symbol he is becoming. Riddler may be the most exhausting of these shadows because he attacks Batman's need to know. Edward Nygma cannot simply commit crimes. He must be recognised as superior. His puzzles are not gifts of intellect, they are demands for worship disguised as challenges. Batman solves them because people are at risk, but also because he cannot leave a mystery unbroken. This makes Riddler a dark mirror. Batman's intelligence is disciplined toward protection. Riddler's intelligence collapses inward into ego. Yet both men build systems, map cities, hide meanings, and expect the world to obey patterns. Batman defeats Riddler again and again by proving that intelligence without humility becomes a cage. Catwoman's place in the Arkham story is softer and sharper at once. Selina Kyle understands survival, temptation, and self-interest better than Batman likes to admit. She moves through Arkham City with her own priorities, steals what she wants, and still returns when it matters. Her choice to help Batman after Protocol 10 begins is one of those small moral turns that the Arkhamverse handles well. Selina is not remade into a saint. She simply chooses, in a decisive moment, not to abandon him. Batman's world often divides people into mission and threat. Catwoman reminds him that people can be unreliable, selfish, brave, affectionate, and worth trusting in the same night. Mr. Freeze remains one of the clearest examples of love becoming monstrous through desperation. Victor Fries is not driven by chaos or greed in the usual way. He wants Nora saved. That desire is human, even beautiful at its root. But the methods become cold in every sense. He will endanger others, bargain with criminals, and fight Batman if he believes it serves her survival. In Arkham City, Batman needs Freeze to make the cure, and Freeze needs Batman to understand that love can become its own prison. Bruce knows something about that. He has loved the dead so fiercely that his whole life became an answer to them. Two-Face is perhaps the most tragic to Bruce because of Arkham Shadow's deeper history with Harvey Dent. In the later games, Two-Face is already a crime boss, theatrical and brutal, flipping coins over life and death. But beneath that is Harvey, the friend, the district attorney, the man who wanted Gotham saved through law. Batman does not face Two-Face as a stranger. He faces proof that Gotham can break good intentions and use them as masks for violence. Every coin toss is a corruption of justice. Law becomes randomness. Choice becomes performance. Bruce's grief over Harvey is quiet by the time the later stories unfold, but it remains one of the old wounds under the cowl. The Penguin story is uglier in a more grounded way. Oswald Cobblepot represents Gotham's appetite for power without the elegance he imagines he has. He hoards weapons, relics, people, favours, and humiliations. His museum in Arkham City is a monument to possession. He wants to own fear, own history, own bodies in display cases, own the room's attention. Batman's conflict with Penguin often feels like the war against cruelty as business. Penguin is not trying to remake the world philosophically. He is trying to make himself rich and untouchable by turning everyone else into property. Batman breaks through that small empire again and again. Hush gives Bruce a more intimate kind of violation. Thomas Elliot does not merely attack Batman, he attacks Bruce Wayne's face, identity and history. In a world where masks define survival, Hush weaponizes the face beneath the mask. His obsession with Bruce turns envy and resentment into surgical horror. For Arkham Batman, who spends his life dividing Bruce from Batman, Hush is a nightmare of imitation and replacement. Someone else wearing Bruce's face is a reminder that public identity can be stolen as surely as a secret can be exposed. It foreshadows the larger crisis of Nightfall, where Bruce's face becomes public property. Azrael's presence raises the question of succession. The Order of Saint. Dumas looks at Batman and sees a role that can be transferred, used and sanctified. Azrael is trained, manipulated and presented as a possible heir, but the idea is dangerous because Batman is not merely a set of combat skills. He has choices, refusals, relationships, wounds and discipline. A successor who inherits the violence without the conscience becomes a weapon for someone else's doctrine. Batman's encounters with Azrael make the mission's future uneasy. If Bruce falls, who carries the symbol, and what parts of the symbol must never be carried blindly? Professor Pig, Man-Bat, Deacon Blackfire, Firefly, Zsasz, Calendar Man, and the many other horrors around Gotham show that Batman's city is not one kind of darkness. Some darkness is theatrical, some is predatory, some is religious mania, some is scientific accident, some is serial compulsion, some is political corruption, some is ordinary cruelty wearing no costume at all. The Arkhamverse works because Gotham feels overfull, almost mythologically diseased, yet each case has its own texture. Batman moves through them all as if one man can hold back an ocean with enough preparation. The tragedy is that he almost can, for one night at a time. The allies around him keep that ocean from taking him entirely. Alfred is the first and last voice of home. Gordon is public trust, the bridge between the law and the shadow. Barbara is intelligence, courage, and the painful cost of joining the mission. Dick is the proof that grief can become motion without becoming only vengeance. Jason is the proof that love can fail and still be worth reaching for. Tim is the partner Bruce tries too hard to protect. Catwoman is the person who refuses to fit neatly into any of his categories. Lucius Fox is the maker behind many of the tools, giving Bruce the practical means to turn intention into action. Together, they form a constellation around a man who keeps insisting he works alone. That insistence is one of Bruce's great flaws. He says he works alone, yet every major survival in the Arkham story depends on someone else. Alfred saves him with counsel and logistics. Oracle gives him eyes. Gordon gives him legitimacy and courage inside the police. Robin and Nightwing fight the parts of the city he cannot reach at once. Catwoman saves him in Arkham City. Ivy saves Gotham in Arkham Knight. Jason saves him from Scarecrow. Even villains sometimes create the conditions for his survival by betraying each other, miscalculating, or revealing their own obsessions. The myth of solitary Batman is useful to criminals. The truth is more human and more interesting. The Arkham Batman's body also tells a story. By night he has absorbed years of punishment. Punches, falls, toxin, poison, infection, broken armour, sleepless nights, and emotional shocks that would collapse most people. Yet the body keeps moving because Bruce has trained it to obey purpose beyond ordinary limits. This can look heroic, but it is also disturbing. The Arkham games often make Batman feel powerful, yet the story underneath keeps asking what kind of man does this to himself every night. His endurance is admirable, his refusal to rest is not always healthy. The same discipline that saves Gotham can become self-erasure. Fear remains the thread through all of it. Bruce begins as Fear's victim, becomes Fear's master, confronts Scarecrow's fear, turns criminals' fear against them, sees Joker's fear of being forgotten, and perhaps survives Nightfall by becoming a fear symbol separated from Bruce Wayne. The entire Arkham story is a meditation on fear's uses and limits. Fear can stop a mugger in an alley. Fear can also poison a city, break a mind, and isolate a hero from everyone who loves him. Batman's final evolution has to be more than frightening criminals. It has to include choosing what fear should never be allowed to touch. After Nightfall, Gotham changes because the public story changes. Bruce Wayne is gone. The manor is gone. The old billionaire mask is gone. The criminals who once thought they could attack Bruce's public life now face a darker uncertainty. Is Batman alive? Is he dead? Is he human? Is he something worse? That uncertainty becomes part of the new deterrent. The final alley image of Arkham Knight suggests a Batman who has learned from Scarecrow and Joker without becoming them. He uses Nightmare, but in service of protection. The danger is obvious. Using fear always risks becoming ruled by it. The hope is that Bruce has finally learned enough to handle that edge. The Justice League era takes that shadow and places it under a brighter sky. Batman standing beside Superman is always a study in contrast. Superman represents visible hope, power in daylight, the belief that strength can be gentle in public. Arkham Batman comes from wet alleys, asylum walls, and private scars. For him to join the League means stepping into a team where secrecy cannot function the same way. Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, and Superman are not Robins he can lock in a cell for their safety. They are equals with their own power and conscience. The League may force Bruce to practice trust at a scale Gotham never allowed. Yet the later Metropolis crisis shows that even the League can be turned. Brainiac invades Earth and brainwashes its greatest defenders, including Batman. This is a terrifying extension of the old Arkham fear. Batman has always worried about becoming dangerous to the people he protects. Under Brainiac's control, that nightmare becomes public and global. A corrupted Batman is more than one man with gadgets. He is strategy, preparation, stealth, and psychological warfare turned against humanity. The same mind that saved Gotham can become a predator when hijacked by something cold enough to use him without conscience. Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, begins in that catastrophe. Amanda Waller forces Harley Quinn, Deadshot, Captain Boomerang, and King Shark into Task Force X, bombs placed in their heads, and sends them into Metropolis to stop Brainiac and the compromised Justice League. From Batman's perspective, this is a strange legacy. Harley, once part of Joker's orbit and one of Gotham's recurring threats, becomes one of the people sent into the city against him. The rogues and monsters Batman helped contain are turned into state weapons against heroes who have fallen under alien control. Arkham's old moral complications expand from Gotham to the world. Brainwashed Batman is frightening because he uses Batman's language without Batman's mercy. He stalks, plans, captures and terrorizes. He turns the Hall of Justice and Metropolis into spaces of dread. The difference between Batman as protector and Batman as weapon becomes painfully clear. The tools are similar, the moral centre is gone. This echoes every fear from Arkham Ver and Arkham Knight. What if Batman's methods survive after Bruce's conscience is removed? What if all that discipline, stealth and fear belongs to an enemy? The answer is that he becomes one of the most dangerous beings on Earth. The controversial moment where Harley appears to kill Batman lands so hard because Arkham Batman carries years of history. This is the man who saved Joker, carried his body, survived Scarecrow, lost Jason, ended Protocol 10, and erased Bruce Wayne to keep others safe. Seeing him executed in a compromised state feels brutal because it appears to deny him dignity after all of that. Yet the later resolution changes the meaning. The story eventually reveals that the League members killed by Task Force X were not the true heroes in the simple way first believed. Brainiac's cloning and containment schemes mean the real Batman and other surviving League members can return, and Batman helps deliver the final blow against Brainiac. That later reversal matters for the entire Arkham Batman story. If the apparent execution had been his final ending, Arkham Batman's arc would close in bitterness, a legend reduced to a puppet and put down by someone from Joker's old world. With the final resolution, the story becomes stranger but less nihilistic. Batman survives Brainiac's control, emerges from captivity, and helps finish the enemy. He is not untouched by what happened. No member of the League could be. But survival means his story remains consistent with the Arkham pattern. Batman is broken, exposed, poisoned, haunted, and controlled. But the core does not vanish forever. Wonder Woman's death in that larger story also casts a shadow over Batman's survival. She is the League member who was not corrupted in the same way, the warrior who continues trying to save her friends and stop the invasion. Her fall gives the Metropolis crisis a permanent cost, even after other deaths are complicated by clones and containment. For Batman, who has already lived through the deaths of Talia, Joker, Ivy, and many others, Wonder Woman's sacrifice would be another reminder that the heroic world beyond Gotham has its own tragedies. The League is brighter, but brightness does not mean safety. When Batman returns in the final phase of that crisis, He is no longer only Gotham's ghost. He is a member of a wounded Justice League, a survivor of alien control, and a man whose entire life has been about resisting the misuse of fear. Brainiac's control is an ultimate violation of agency, and Batman's recovery from it fits the deeper Arkham pattern. Every major villain tries to define him. Joker tries to make him a joke. Scarecrow tries to make him fear. Hugo Strange tries to make him a case study. Ra's tries to make him an heir to murder. Jason tries to make him answer for abandonment. Brainiac tries to make him a tool. Batman's story is the repeated refusal to remain what others make of him. That refusal does not mean he emerges pure. Arkham Batman is too scarred for purity. He carries compromises, secrecy, injuries and failures that cannot be polished away. Jason's suffering remains real. Barbara's danger remains real. The people hurt during Brainiac's invasion remain real. Gotham's endless cycles remain real. But the Arkham version of Batman is defined by continuing after the truth of failure becomes unavoidable. He does not continue because he believes he has never failed. He continues because failure makes the mission more necessary and more painful. The long arc also turns Alfred into one of the saga's quiet heroes. From the early days of Origins, when Alfred fears Bruce is throwing his life away, to the later Nightfall moment at Wayne Manor, Alfred remains the person who sees Bruce before Batman. He challenges him, worries for him, supports him, and disappears with him when the public identity must die. Alfred's loyalty is not blind worship. It is love under impossible conditions. He helps create Batman, but he never fully stops mourning the life Bruce might have had. In the Arkham story, Alfred is the human thread that keeps the symbol from becoming entirely inhuman. Gordon's arc is another slow victory. He begins wary of Batman, and rightly so. Over time he becomes partner, ally, commissioner, father of Oracle, and eventually mayor. Gordon's journey shows Gotham learning, imperfectly, to trust the symbol without surrendering the law to it. He does not always agree with Batman. He is hurt by Batman's secrecy about Barbara. He makes mistakes under pressure, but he keeps standing. By the later future, Gordon's survival into public leadership suggests that Batman's work was never meant to replace honest institutions forever. It was meant to keep the city alive long enough for better people to hold office. Barbara's journey carries both injury and resilience. As Batgirl, she enters the fight physically. As Oracle, after the Joker's attack leaves her paralysed, she becomes one of Batman's most vital allies through intelligence and communication. The Arkhamverse does not reduce her to tragedy. She remains active, sharp, and essential. In Knight, Scarecrow uses her as a way to wound Batman and Gordon, but Barbara's survival and later marriage to Tim Drake point toward a future beyond victimhood. She is one of the clearest proofs that the mission harms people and still can be shaped by their agency rather than only their wounds. Dick Grayson's presence as Nightwing represents the healthiest version of Bruce's influence. Dick suffers loss, becomes Robin, grows beyond the role, and turns into his own hero. He does not become another Bruce completely. That is his victory. He carries the training without carrying the same emotional prison in the same way. His humour, movement, and independence show that Batman's legacy can produce something lighter than Batman himself. In the Arkhamverse, where so much legacy becomes corruption, Dick is one of the clearest signs that Bruce's mission can save as well as endanger. Jason is the painful counterbalance. He is what happens when the mission fails one of its own children. His transformation into the Arkham Knight is not Batman's fault alone, because Joker is the torturer and abuser who breaks him. Yet Bruce still bears the grief of absence, the failure to find him, and the later mistake of letting secrecy harden around that loss. Jason becoming Red Hood after the events of Knight suggests he does not return to innocence, but he does move away from being Joker and Scarecrow's weapon. He becomes a harsher kind of vigilante, a survivor trying to turn pain into purpose without fully sharing Bruce's restraint. Tim Drake is the heir Batman nearly smothers with protection. In Arkham Knight, Bruce locks him away because he fears the Joker infection and Scarecrow's plan. Tim's frustration shows that love without trust can feel like imprisonment. Yet Tim remains committed, and his relationship with Barbara points toward a future where the Bat family can live beyond Bruce's immediate control. If Dick is the first successful departure and Jason is the wound, Tim is the chance for partnership to survive after the worst secrets are exposed. Selina Kyle remains an outsider, but her outsider status matters. She is close enough to care and distant enough to see Batman's absurdity. In Arkham City, she can choose the loot and leave, yet she returns. In Arkham Knight, Riddler uses her as a hostage in his obsessive attempt to prove superiority over Batman, and she endures the situation with irritation, courage, and style. Selina's relationship with Bruce is never the simple domestic future some stories imagine. In the Arkhamverse, it is more like a recurring question. Can a man built from discipline and a woman built from freedom ever meet without trying to change each other? The answer is partial, which suits them. The villains as a whole form a broken court around Batman. Joker is chaos and obsession. Scarecrow is fear stripped of humour. Riddler is intellect without humility. Penguin is greed and possession. Two-Face is justice split into chance. Harley is devotion twisted through trauma. Ivy is nature's vengeance. Bane is strength sharpened by strategy. Ra's is order through murder. Hugo Strange is institutional arrogance. Jason, for a time, is family pain militarized. Brainiac is control at cosmic scale. Each tries to pull Batman toward a different failure. He survives by refusing to become any one of them completely. The city itself remains the central character beneath them all. Arkham Gotham is wet stone, gargoyles, sirens, neon, abandoned factories, courthouse steps, prison walls, elevated tracks, and allies that never forget. It is modern and gothic, technological and medieval, corrupt and worth saving. Batman's relationship with Gotham is almost devotional. He sees its rot more clearly than anyone, and still refuses to abandon it. That refusal can look mad. Perhaps it is, in part. But in the Arkham story, madness and devotion often stand close together. What separates Batman from the people he fights is not the absence of obsession. It is the direction of the obsession and the line he draws around it. The no-kill rule is that line. Many enemies mock it. Joker exploits it. Ra's rejects it. Jason condemns it as weakness after his torture. Scarecrow tries to break it through fear. The rule costs Batman again and again, and the Arkhamverse is honest about that cost. People suffer because Joker lives long enough to strike again. Villains escape. Cycles continue. Yet the rule is also the only thing keeping Batman from becoming a better equipped version of the violence he opposes. In a city begging for shortcuts, Batman's refusal to kill is the slow, painful insistence that means matter as much as ends. That does not make him gentle. Arkham Batman breaks bones, terrorizes criminals, and uses fear with surgical intensity. His mercy is not soft in presentation. It is hard, grim, sometimes frightening. But mercy does not always look like tenderness. Sometimes it looks like stopping your fist before death. Sometimes it looks like saving Joker from a fall. Sometimes it looks like reviving Bane after stopping his heart. Sometimes it looks like offering Jason help while he points hatred back at you. Batman's mercy is often severe, but it remains mercy because there is a point past which he will not go. The entire Arkham story can be read as Bruce Wayne trying to keep that point alive under escalating pressure. Origins asks whether a young, angry Batman can be more than vengeance. Shadow asks whether he can become hope in a city of abused prisoners and broken friends. Asylum asks whether he can resist mutation into the monster Joker wants. City asks whether he can save a dying enemy and stop state-sanctioned massacre. Ver asks whether he can face the fear of harming his own family. Knight asks whether he can defeat Joker within, save Jason without giving up on him, and survive public unmasking. Suicide Squad's later arc asks whether Batman's core can return after even his mind and body are weaponized by something alien. The answer is never easy, but it is repeatedly yes. Not perfectly, not without damage, not without failures that leave lasting scars, but yes, in the essential ways. He does not become Joker, he does not become Ra's, he does not become Scarecrow. He does not abandon Jason entirely. He does not let Brainiac define his final shape. Again and again, the Arkham Batman is pushed toward transformation into something monstrous, and again he claws his way back toward a harsher version of goodness. This makes his story strangely restful beneath all the darkness. The surface is violent, loud, and full of alarms, but the deeper rhythm is consistent. A man who knows fear keeps choosing protection. A man surrounded by madness keeps choosing a line. A man who loses public identity keeps choosing the work without the applause. A man haunted by dead parents, dead enemies, lost sons, and broken allies keeps choosing to stand between danger and the next family in the alley. That repetition is not lazy. It is the moral heartbeat of the Arkham Batman. When the final image of this whole life settles, it should not be one battle or one villain. It should be the long shape of Bruce moving through versions of himself. The angry young man on Christmas Eve. The infiltrator in Blackgate learning that criminals are still human. The mentor taking Dick Grayson in. The detective trapped inside Arkham Asylum. The infected hero carrying Joker's body from the Monarch Theatre. The haunted man seeing Joker in the mirror. The exhausted protector facing Jason beneath the Arkham Knight's helmet. The unmasked Bruce standing before Scarecrow's cameras. The nightmare figure returning to an alley after Nightfall. The League survivor rising again after Brainiac. One life, many masks, one refusal at the centre. The refusal is simple to say and nearly impossible to live. No more children should become what Bruce became if he can stop it. That is what the alley means. Every case, gadget, ally and sacrifice grows from that sentence, even when Bruce forgets to say it kindly. He cannot save everyone. Arkham Shadow teaches him that. Arkham City teaches him that. Jason teaches him that. Wonder Woman's death teaches him that on a larger stage. But failing to save everyone does not release him from trying to save the next person. The mission survives because it is impossible, not because it is easy. There is something beautiful in the way the Arkhamverse lets Batman be both myth and exhausted man. He can glide above Gotham like a living gargoyle, then speak to Alfred like a stubborn son. He can terrify rooms full of criminals, then fail to tell Tim the truth. He can outthink Hugo Strange, defeat Ra's al Ghul, and still be undone by the memory of a boy he could not save. He can stand beside the Justice League and still belong emotionally to a narrow alley where pearls hit the ground. The scale changes, but the wound remains intimate. That intimacy is why the story works as one long night even though it spans years. Christmas snow, asylum rain, prison walls, city towers, fear gas, burning trees, ruined manor stone, metropolis under alien siege. These places differ wildly, yet Bruce carries the same internal weather through them. He is always moving from trauma toward duty, from duty toward isolation, from isolation toward painful trust, from trust toward loss, and from loss back into duty. The cycle is heavy, but it does not stay hopeless, because each turn leaves someone alive who might otherwise have been lost. By the end, Arkham Batman is no longer simply the man criminals fear. He is a legacy distributed among survivors. Gordon carries the civic trust. Barbara carries intelligence and resilience. Tim carries partnership. Dick carries independence. Jason carries the warning and possibility of recovery. Alfred carries the memory of the boy. Selina carries the question of freedom. Gotham carries the nightmare that protects it. The Justice League carries the proof that Batman can stand with gods and still remain a man defined by one human rule. If Bruce Wayne's public life ended at Nightfall, then his private mission became both smaller and larger. Smaller because he no longer has the billionaire mask, the public charity galas, the Wayne name as S.H.I.E.L.D. Larger because the symbol can now move without the same boundaries. This is dangerous, but it also completes the transformation that began in the alley. Bruce Wayne made Batman to answer his parents' deaths. Over time, Batman grew beyond Bruce Wayne. The Arkham ending asks whether that growth is tragedy or achievement. The honest answer is both. The later survival after Brainiac adds one more quiet note. Even after becoming a nightmare, even after joining the League, even after being controlled by an alien intelligence, Batman returns. The return does not erase the disturbing things that happened under Brainiac's control, just as Nightfall does not erase the damage of secrecy. But it keeps the story from closing on violation. The final meaning is endurance. Batman has been used, exposed, infected, and broken open, yet the core principle remains capable of reappearing. That principle is not invincibility, it is the choice to protect again after being made into harm. The Arkham Batman story also changes the meaning of the costume itself. In the beginning, the suit is armour and intimidation, a young man's answer to helplessness. It makes him larger than the boy in the alley. It gives criminals something to fear and gives Bruce a shape strong enough to hold his grief. Over time, the suit becomes history. It carries scratches from assassins, stains from asylum corridors, damage from city rooftops, scars from militia fire, and the invisible weight of every ally who has worn a related symbol. By Nightfall, the suit is no longer a disguise Bruce puts on. It is a language Gotham understands more readily than Bruce Wayne's face. The cowl is especially important because it hides the eyes and makes Batman feel less human, yet the story keeps pulling human emotion through it. Gordon hears grief in the voice. Alfred hears stubbornness. Oracle hears worry. Joker hears obsession. Jason hears abandonment. Scarecrow hears fear buried under control. The cowl makes Batman a symbol to strangers, but to the people who know him. It can never fully hide the man. This is why unmasking him on television is dramatic but incomplete. The world learns his name, but his closest allies already knew the more difficult truth. Batman was always Bruce's wound trying to become useful. The cape gives the Arkham story another quiet piece of poetry. It lets him glide, vanish, descend, and appear where criminals do not expect him. In motion, it turns a man into a shape. Gotham's architecture seems built for it. High roofs, narrow alleys, gargoyles, towers, cranes, bridges, and broken skylights. The cape makes the city vertical. letting Batman move above the streets while remaining tied to them. It is also theatrical, and Bruce knows that. He uses theatre against criminals who believe fear belongs to them, but unlike Joker's theatre, Batman's performance aims to end harm rather than multiply it. The bat signal carries the opposite meaning from the cowl. The cowl hides. The signal calls. It is one of the few public acknowledgements that Gotham needs Batman and trusts him enough to ask. In Arkham Shadow, Batman destroys the signal to protect his Matches Malone infiltration, and that act feels like severing a fragile public bond. Later, the signal becomes part of the familiar relationship between Batman and Gordon, a light in the sky that says the law has reached the edge of what it can do alone. The signal is not worship, it is an admission of partnership. The Batcave, too, evolves across the story. Beneath Wayne Manor, it begins as a hidden answer to the alley, computers, training space, vehicles, trophies, suits, medical supplies, and the loneliness of preparation. Under Arkham Island, the secret cave becomes a hidden lifeline inside enemy territory. After Nightfall, when Wayne Manor explodes, the cave's old meaning changes. The house above it is gone from the public story. The cave becomes less a secret under a home and more the hidden root of a myth that has cut itself loose from Bruce Wayne. It is both refuge and tomb, workshop and memory. The trophies inside the cave are not simple decorations. They are reminders of nights that nearly killed him, people he could not save, enemies he barely stopped, and choices that still ask questions. A giant coin, a mechanical dinosaur, Joker cards, old suits, Jason's memorial, bits of evidence, pieces of impossible cases. Batman keeps trophies because memory matters, but memory can become dangerous when it turns into shrine. Jason's memorial shows that. Bruce honours him, but the memorial also marks a failure he could not move beyond. The cave holds lessons, and some lessons cut every time he walks past them. Arkham Batman's detective work deserves its own quiet attention. The combat is loud, the villains theatrical, but underneath everything is investigation. He reconstructs crime scenes, reads traces, follows blood, analyses toxins, deciphers codes, listens to voices, and turns chaos into sequence. This detective discipline separates him from the brutality around him. He does not simply strike, he asks what happened. In Gotham, where lies pile up quickly, asking what happened is a moral act. It means the dead deserve sequence. The wounded deserve cause. The city deserves more than rumours. That detective mind is also why Batman suffers so much. He cannot stop noticing. Every clue points to responsibility. Every failure becomes a pattern he should have seen earlier. Every villain's escape becomes a flaw in planning. Intelligence gives him power, but it also gives guilt more places to attach. Riddler's obsession is ridiculous, because it seeks superiority, yet Batman's own mind can become cruel when turned against himself. The Arkham story often shows that knowing more does not always bring peace. Sometimes it gives pain better evidence. Gotham's prisons form a dark geography around him. Blackgate is the blunt instrument, a place of cells, riots, gangs, and official violence. Arkham Asylum is the Gothic wound, full of treatment language and madness. Arkham City is the political nightmare, a whole district turned into a cage. The Panacea Studios holding area in Night becomes Batman's private prison for Joker-infected victims. Each containment space reveals a different failure. Gotham keeps building places to hold danger, and danger keeps leaking through the walls, because containment without healing is only delay. This is part of why Batman's relationship to justice stays uneasy. He captures criminals, and many return. He hands people over to institutions that are corrupt, underfunded, abusive, or easily hijacked. He works with Gordon because he believes the law can still matter, yet he operates outside it because the law is often too compromised to act in time. The Arkham Batman lives in that tension. If he trusted institutions completely, he would not exist. If he rejected them completely, he would become a tyrant in a cape. His alliance with Gordon is the narrow bridge between those failures. The civilians of Gotham are often absent during the biggest Arkham nights, evacuated, imprisoned, threatened or hidden. But their absence matters. Batman fights so that ordinary people can have boring days, a shop opening, a family walking home, a bus arriving, a child sleeping without hearing sirens. The games focus on extraordinary nights, yet the moral goal is ordinary life. This is easy to forget because Batman looks most iconic in Catastrophe. But his victory is not the punch or the glide. His victory is the morning after, when someone who never saw him gets to live as if the city is not always ending. Bruce Wayne's philanthropy sits behind that same goal. In many Batman stories, Bruce's public money is part of the mission, and in the Arkham-verse the Wayne name carries civic weight even when Bruce's personality is guarded. He opposes Arkham City publicly because he understands that cages built from fear will not save Gotham. Batman is a response to street crime, and Bruce also knows that systems can become monstrous. The tragedy is that his public tools are eventually burned away by Nightfall, leaving the question of how much social repair can survive when Bruce Wayne is gone. Perhaps that is why Gordon becoming mayor feels quietly hopeful. If Bruce Wayne cannot remain the public reformer, someone else must carry civic responsibility. Gordon is not perfect, but he understands corruption, fear, police work, and Batman's limits. His mayoralty suggests Gotham's future cannot depend forever on one man in the dark. Batman can frighten predators, solve impossible cases, and stop citywide disasters. But Gotham still needs leaders, teachers, doctors, honest officers, neighbours, and ordinary courage. The symbol buys time. People must decide what to do with that time. The Justice League expands that same lesson to the world. Batman's methods are born in Gotham, but global threats require cooperation beyond one city and one cave. Superman cannot be treated like a sidekick. Wonder Woman cannot be managed through secrecy. Flash cannot be locked away for his own good. Green Lantern is not a tool in Batman's belt. Working with them means Bruce must confront the limits of being the one who knows best. Brainiac's corruption of the League is horrific, partly because it violates that hard-won cooperation. It turns trust into a weapon, just as Joker turned intimacy into obsession. After Brainiac, Batman would have to live with another kind of guilt. Even if clones complicate the public deaths and the real heroes survive, the League's image is damaged. Metropolis suffers, and people who trusted heroes now have reason to fear them. Batman knows what it means to be feared, but Superman and the others come from brighter symbols. Seeing that brightness corrupted would wound him. He has spent his life turning fear into a controlled tool. Brainiac shows what happens when trust itself is invaded. The answer cannot be more fear alone. It has to be repair, truth, and the slow rebuilding of confidence. This late stage makes Arkham Batman older in spirit. The young man of Origins wanted to prove himself against assassins. The older survivor must help prove that heroes can return from violation without becoming permanent threats. That is a heavier task than defeating a bounty hunter. It requires humility, the kind Bruce rarely displays openly, but often practices through action. He must stand with people who saw him used against them. He must accept that some will never look at Batman the same way again. After Scarecrow unmasked him, after Brainiac weaponized him, he knows identity can be broken publicly, and still not be the final truth. The story's quietest comfort is that Batman's best victories are often invisible. A man decides not to shoot because he saw the signal. A frightened former Robin saves the mentor he blamed. A young Dick Grayson is taken in before grief turns him completely. A city survives a toxin cloud because an enemy chose sacrifice. A police commissioner becomes mayor. A child in an alley sees a nightmare figure and lives. These are not all clean victories. Some are fragile, partial, or late. But Batman's work has always been made from partial rescues. He cannot fix the world. He can interrupt the worst moment long enough for someone else to keep living. That is why the Arkham story remains powerful even when its timeline grows crowded. It is not simply a sequence of villains getting bigger. It is a repeated examination of one wound under different lights. What does Bruce do when criminals hunt him? When a friend becomes a villain? When his enemy dies? When his family is threatened? When a son returns as an army? When his identity is exposed? When his mind is invaded? When the world beyond Gotham needs him? Each answer is imperfect, but each answer reveals the same stubborn centre. He protects. He refuses murder. He comes back. The final image can therefore hold more than darkness. Gotham's rooftops can be quiet. The asylum can be distant. Arkham City can be a scar in urban memory. The Pizzaplex belongs to another world, but Gotham has its own ruins and neon, its own rain and old stone. Somewhere the bat signal may shine differently, or perhaps no public signal shines at all. Somewhere Batman may move without being announced. Somewhere Gordon, Barbara, Tim, Dick, Jason, Selina, Alfred and the League carry their parts of the story forward. The myth no longer depends on one clean identity. What remains is a man who became a symbol, then had to survive the symbol. That is the part that gives the Arkham story its strange ache. Bruce builds Batman to keep one alley from repeating forever, but the symbol grows large enough to pull sons, allies, enemies, governments and gods into its orbit. Some are saved by it, some are harmed by it, some are inspired, some are consumed. The later Bruce understands, more than the younger one ever could, that a symbol is never innocent just because its purpose is noble. It must be tended, questioned, and sometimes broken open so the human reason beneath it can breathe. That human reason is always the quietest thing in the room, and the most important. It keeps breathing. So the entire story of Arkham Batman is not really the story of defeating Joker, or Scarecrow, or Ra's, or Brainiac. It is the story of Bruce Wayne trying to stop fear from owning him, then learning that fear can be useful only if it serves compassion. In the beginning, he wants criminals to feel what he felt in the alley. By the end, the better part of him wants no child, no ally, no city, and no world to be ruled by that feeling. The symbol remains frightening because Gotham understands frightening things. But beneath the fear, when the story is held quietly, there is care. Care is the hidden engine of the Arkham Batman. It does not always look gentle because Bruce is bad at gentleness when the stakes rise. Still, care is why he saves Joker from the fall. Care is why he revives Bane. Care is why he stops Dent from killing Joe Chill. Care is why he takes in Dick. Care is why he cannot give up on Jason. Care is why he lets Bruce Wayne die publicly. here is why even a brainwashed Batman feels like a tragedy rather than simply a threat. The whole dark machine runs on a wounded man's refusal to let the wound become the whole world. The story can rest there, with Gotham quiet for a moment after all those storms. Somewhere, the old asylum sits in memory, its gates rusting around names that changed the city. Somewhere, the Monarch Theatre holds the echo of Joker's final laugh in Batman's silence. Somewhere, Wayne Manor is gone, or hidden behind the official story of an explosion. Somewhere, Gordon looks over a city that still needs help. Somewhere, Barbara and Tim build a life from the pieces left after fear. Somewhere, Jason rides through his own harder road. Somewhere beyond Gotham, the League carries scars from Brainiac and keeps moving. And somewhere in the dark, whether as man, myth, survivor or nightmare, Batman remains the answer to the alley. The pearls fall. The gunshots echo. The boy kneels in a city that does not stop for grief. Years later, the same city looks up and sees a shape cross the rooftops. It does not mean the pain was healed. It means the pain was given a direction. Arkham Batman is that direction. Not peace, not purity, not victory without cost, but a long, stubborn movement through fear toward the person who still needs saving tonight.